Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Disruptive Author. Today I'm interviewing disruptive author, Rita-Marie Lenton, who just recently self-published Creating a Fond Farewell after going through our bootcamp. So I'm very much looking forward to talking to Rita-Marie, not just about her book and other books that she's contributed to as well, but about her business. So hi, Rita-Marie, how are you going?
Hi, Deb. I'm going well.
That's
How's
good to
yourself?
hear. I'm doing pretty well. Looking forward to having a nice little chat with you. I'm very proud of this for you, of creating a fond farewell. You did an amazing job. I know there were parts that were a bit tricky there for you, but you hung in there and you just followed put one foot in front of the other, and you got there in the end, and you did really well.
And it's all thanks to you pushing me to
I am a
step
bit pushy.
step outside your comfort zone, because it would have been
Yeah.
so easy to say, Deb, here, I'll pay you, you do it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But knowing
And
that, when you haven't got finances and you've got to do it,
yeah.
you can do it. You can make it
Yes, you
work.
can. You
And I
can.
am
And that's a
very proud
great
of
message.
it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, just the opportunities that are there, I think for authors, it really excites me.
Mm.
There was a time when and I talk about this a bit, but there was a time when you had to go through one of the traditional publishers, and you had to have the permission of someone you didn't even know was judging you, looking at your writing, deciding whether your message was good enough, in quotation marks,
Yes.
to publish. And they were the ones that decided what the outcome was for you. And I absolutely love, more than anything else, I think, is that we do have a voice and we're allowed to use it through publishing if we want, and nobody else makes that decision for us. We do.
Yes.
So congratulations. It's a great effort. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what it's about before we go any further?
Sure. So for 21 years, I've been in the funeral industry and retired. I think it was September 2021. I'm starting to lose time since I
Yes, that's
retired.
already in the second year. Wow.
Yeah. And that decision was reached because I was just worn out and tired from COVID.
Yeah.
And I always said to you, Deb, I know you've asked me several times to write a book, and I always said I would never write a book until I'd retired. So I just thought it was a way of putting down my memoirs kind of thing within the funeral industry, how I got there, what led to it, some of my most memorable funerals. I didn't mention companies I worked for, not through disrespect, because I worked for two really great companies.
Yeah.
But I just felt that it needed to be about me. There were a couple of people that allowed me to share their funeral stories, which I'm grateful for. And I honoured the mortician I worked with, and I had permission from his wife to mention his name. So I was really chuffed to be able to memorialise him in a little way for him and his wife and his family.
Oh, nice.
But it's more about, someone asked me why was I writing the book, and one day I just said, I don't know, maybe it's ego. Maybe I want somebody to know what I did for 21 years.
Yeah.
Blow my own trumpet, as people are often saying. The other was, I sat with a lot of families over years that just didn't have a clue. And I remember my mum's funeral and how badly it all went. And I kept thinking, I can't dig her up now. I can't redo this.
It's too late.
So it's, in a way, helping other people to have a little bit of an idea what's going on.
And what their options are, maybe?
Absolutely. And when people say, oh, you really need to get this out to the nursing homes, I said, no, I don't. I need to get it out to the younger generation before their mums and dads get to the nursing home. Because once they go to a nursing home, they've already been asked by that nursing home who's going to be their funeral director.
Oh, wow.
So they want to know what funeral company to call when the person passes away.
Oh, of course.
So,
that way they're being proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly.
I understand.
And lots of people do that. They don't know the first person to call. They don't know what to do. I've just had a lady that, texted me the other day, and she said, and I know she has an illness and she's trying to put things into place, and she said, who do you recommend? So I just didn't recommend one company. I said, these are all the ones I've worked with.
Yeah.
The choice has to be yours, because every funeral company are good.
Yes. I guess they've all got their strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In my role now as a celebrant, I find that 21 years as a funeral director gives me a greater insight on how the funeral is to operate.
Okay.
So I can sort of sit there, and when a family's talking to me about, oh, we're going to shoulder carry the coffin out of the chapel, and I'm sitting there going, no, you're not. First of all, you've got to talk to your funeral director about that, and they don't usually allow that to happen unless you've had a lot of training.
Oh, there'd be workplace health and safety stuff around that now, wouldn't there?
There is, because I can remember, don't ask me why they did it, but we, my stepfather and my husband and my son and a couple of friends shoulder carried my mum's coffin to the grave.
Yeah.
And it was really like we're dealing with little short people, big tall people, and they were all over the place. And
not well coordinated by the sounds.
No, and my husband's back was struggling, and so was my son. So
wow.
As a funeral director, I used to veto that unless they were prepared to come and have training at the funeral home on how to do it.
Okay, like a practice type run?
Yes, yeah, because there's nothing worse than dropping a coffin.
Oh, I can imagine. Oh, my God. But on the other hand, I'm sure there is a great deal of satisfaction in actually doing that, carrying them that last leg, and just carrying that weight. I just can feel that would be something, a way of processing for people through their grief.
They do carry, but they carry with the handles. So it's more... Yeah. And the coffins are made with handles that are screwed on quite strongly.
They'd want to be, wouldn't they?
Yeah, so it's a better weight-bearing thing rather than, putting up with it, like to try to do up on my shoulder. Because as a funeral director, my role was, if someone was unable to complete the walk, I had to step into their place.
Yeah.
I would have been good if they wanted it on my shoulder.
Okay, yeah.
So...
yeah,
so there's lots of things around that. So,
and there's so many options that like you and I've had this conversation, but there's so many options that people aren't aware of, aren't there, when it comes to saying farewell?
Yes.
So it's not just going to a traditional funeral place and having it all taken care of. There's lots of things that you can do, aren't there?
Yes, there is. So some people, particularly through COVID, this happened quite a bit, where they were just opting for the straight cremation, and at a later date, when the company, the country opened back up, they were having their memorial services with the ashes.
What a great idea! At least then people could come together.
That's right.
And go through that process. That would have been fabulous with my nan, because at 102 she passed, and we had 11 people. That's all we could have. One we had to have special permission for. And you know what? After her life, she should have had hundreds at her funeral. Seriously, that's what she deserved. But, it was live streamed, but it's not the same.
No, it isn't. And I have to agree with you on that, because we were a company where I was working that had been live streaming prior to the COVID. So we were just that little bit in front of some funeral companies.
Okay.
And it was always a free service to the family. With the onset of COVID, all places had to start offering it for free, like that they had been charging.
Ah, it's an additional service.
Yeah. So that was one good thing. The other was, like I got requested many times, even before COVID, where people just didn't want to see the coffin.
Yeah.
So we would suggest that they still wanted the service in the chapel, but they didn't want the coffin there. So we would suggest, if they wanted to have the urn with the ashes, they could do that, or they could just bring in all the memorabilia and set that all up.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So, and one other lady decided she didn't want a service, but she wanted to use the chapel. The coffin was set up, and they just sat there for an hour playing all mum's songs
Oh,
and having a little
lovely.
chat amongst themselves. So, there's lots of different things people can do. It doesn't have to
Doesn't
be,
have to be that full formal
yeah.
process. Yeah.
So,
You can really make it personal that way, can't you?
yes, you can. You
Yeah.
can.
And
And
maybe in a way, your book just gives people permission to do it their way, to go through the process. Obviously, there are certain things that need to be taken care of, but around that, they can do it in a way that does feel very personalised.
yes, and I do encourage people to do that.
Mm. Great work. It's not work that everyone can do, Rita-Marie. And knowing you as I do, like I just know you're that sort of person that you're so trustworthy. And trustworthy, not just like I'm not talking about with my money or my belongings, with my feelings.
Yes.
I trust you, and
That.
that's such an important thing when you're in grief, but also when you're in joy. So that's the other bit that you do, isn't it? So let's maybe shift now. You retired from the funeral industry and you became a celebrant. So you still do funerals for people.
Yes.
But you also do weddings. So do you want to tell us a little
do.
bit about that?
Yeah, well, so it would have been about 11 years ago, and that's where the Soul Crystal Earth business name came from.
Mm-hmm.
The company we were working for was being taken over, and none of us knew what our future held.
What would be coming, yes.
Yeah, and I had then this idea I'd become a marriage celebrant. When the new company took over my facility where I was working and kept me on, I sort of put it on hold. But in 2019, I thought I didn't follow through and I didn't follow my dream. So I went and did the course. And on the 16th of April in 2020, I became an authorised celebrant. And Trish was there for my journey along the way. And I think you were there too somewhere. And Trish and Joe came and helped me with one of the videos for my homework, which was quite hilarious that day. It was a little bit of a struggle on a couple of things I had to do, because I did do face-to-face for 6 weeks, but then the rest of the year was taken up with doing the bits and pieces that we had to go through. We'd sit for all these exams through the modules, and then we had to upload videos of incidences of what we did. And as a group, from that at Rose Training, we formed this little niche. So we used to get together to do our videos, but there was one video I couldn't complete with them, so I used Trish and Joe. And
I think that's the day I did something to my foot.
That's right. You were supposed to come along
I was coming as well, but last minute. Yeah,
and I had my dolly from many years ago.
Okay.
As the baby. It was doing a baby naming module. So I had to write it. They give you the scenario of so this is what it's going to be. Now you write the module, and we had to do that.
Okay.
In that particular course, there was also the funeral celebrant component. And I spoke to my boss at the time, and I borrowed the chapel where I worked, and all my class come, and we did our mock funerals. All of us had to write for Harry the fisherman.
Oh, nice.
And that was really easy for me.
I
went into it. I had all the photos of David as a fisherman. I put everything together. And someone said to me, "Oh, have you written your husband's funeral service?" And I said, "Not really, no. But it helps if you've got a husband that's a fisherman, and you can draw on that type of knowledge about what their hobby is."
Yeah.
That worked really well. And I probably found that was my biggest strength in that course.
Okay.
And then I was really lucky after I'd finished my course that I got asked to do a wedding. And then I flew to Rocky to marry my niece to her same-sex partner, Nicole.
Nice.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. And then later in the year, it's where I'd had all the extras in the way of weddings, So, I've probably done 8 over the whole time.
Yes. You really enjoy the weddings?
I do. I've been lucky. Touch wood. I haven't had any bridezillas. So, but a wedding
Nice.
is, I suppose, with a funeral, you've got a really short span of turnaround. So Monday of this week, I was contacted to do a funeral this coming Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I'd forgotten about Thursday being a public holiday, so the funeral director was ringing me late yesterday afternoon. I need that order of service that we've got to put together for the family, and so I rushed home and did that for them. So that has to be done and ready to go.
So much has to be done in a short space, hey?
Yeah. So not as bad.
Keep you out of trouble though, surely.
Hey?
Keep you out of trouble though, surely.
Yeah, it does. It's not as bad for me as what it is for a funeral director. I can remember those stresses.
Yeah.
But with a wedding, from the time they approach you and say, we want to get married, and they fill in the notice of intention to marry, they've got anywhere from 30 days after signing that up to 18 months before the wedding takes place.
Okay, so they can take their time and plan with you and make sure everything is as they would like it.
One thing a lot of celebrants will tell you is the wedding celebrant's the last person they think of.
Okay.
People usually go out and plan their wedding with the event planner, buy the dresses and everything, and then all of a sudden, oh, we need a wedding celebrant.
We need a celebrant, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's one of those little things where we're kind of the legal part.
Okay, yes, so, very important.
So, you know, you need to contact us, and I haven't had any problems with anybody. As I said, all my weddings have been stress-free.
Yeah, nice.
Listening to some of the forums and everything that I'm involved with, some of the celebrants have come up against bossy photographers and bossy event planners. And
any bridezillas?
They've not ever mentioned bridezillas, so I could imagine they would be out there.
Yes, I imagine they would be. Yep.
She said she charges $1,000 extra. It's got one of those.
Okay. Yep. There's a bridezilla tax.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Oh dear.
Oh. Yeah.
Grooms never seem distressed though, do they? Maybe it's because the bride's the one that's usually doing the organising.
I find as a celebrant, my role sometimes is keeping the groom sort of grounded.
Okay.
Because they do get a bit flighty and they do get a bit nervous.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
okay, so they are human. So tell me, Rita-Marie, then what's different about you, do you think? Why would someone choose to work with you as opposed to choosing to work with someone else?
Look, you know me, Deb, I don't blow my own trumpet. I always just say,
not enough. Yeah.
I'm unique. And, you know, I come with several years experience.
Yeah.
Been married myself. I've been up against a priest that didn't want to do certain things, and I had to fight him when I got married. And, you know, I've just got a lot of life experiences.
Yeah. And I think what I said before about you're just someone that I feel safe to share my feelings with. It's safe to have you in my very personal space.
Yes.
And I think that's probably something that's really important. And look, probably a lot of other celebrants are like that too, you know, because it would take a certain person, I believe. But that would be my experience with you. And I do think you put, you have skin in the game. I'll say you put a part of yourself in there that maybe other celebrants don't. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, one of the things I made up my mind, and I'm quite surprised actually, and I've talked to several celebrants and they've all been a little bit taken back, but within my fee, I make sure that the couple get their official certificate from births, deaths and marriages. I apply for it and I pay for it, and then I have it directly posted to them. Whereas it's not a requirement of me to do that. All I have to do is register it, and let them know it's registered and they're supposed to buy it. Now,
it's just a little wow factor thing, isn't it? It's just finishing it off nicely.
And for me, it's knowing, like, I've completed this.
Yeah, full circle. So, nothing's left undone.
Yeah, and if there's a mistake on it, I go out of my way to make sure I try and get that fixed with births, deaths and marriages for them, because it could be a typo I've done.
You know what? Out of, like, burying 4 parents between my husband and I, we've had 2 death certificates with mistakes on them. 50%.
Yeah, and that's because sometimes people at the other end, now, I don't know when your parents died, but BDM in Queensland didn't go online until, say, about 5 or 6 years ago, and not every funeral director took up that option. Yeah. So a lot of handwritten applications and details went into births, deaths and marriages. Yeah. And it's the person at the other end that's typing it.
And trying to read. I wonder, do funeral directors, are they a bit like doctors? Do they have the doctor's handwriting? Is it a thing to get into becoming a director, if that makes sense?
Well, I can remember putting an ad in the paper for a new funeral director at the branch I managed, and one of the requirements was I wanted a handwritten note or handwritten letter. I got typed letters and everything. So my next step would be, when they arrived, I got them to fill in a questionnaire. And I let them know there and then that I was looking at their handwriting. Okay. Because we needed to have legible handwriting. Over the years, my handwriting became pits. From filling in lots and lots of paperwork, and sometimes you're doing it in a rush. My signature by the end of the day was horrible, because I'd be signing all these different documents
all day.
One of the things you need to be aware of is how you write. One of the biggest challenges for our particular area was looking at one of our funeral directors that had been taught outside of the conventional schooling. So her E's were like a letter 3.
Oh, wow.
They were the backward E in printing. Yeah. And because I knew that was the way she wrote them, I was able to say to the guys, it's an E, it's not a 3. But, little things like that. And I mean, some of the ones that came in, they were very illegible. You couldn't read them. You'd have to ring them up and clarify, what does this say? So imagine those poor people at births, deaths and marriages trying to convert into a death certificate.
They'd need superpowers. Yeah.
Yeah. And once it's all typed up and submitted, to get that changed, you got to submit lots of forms back to them.
Yes. Yeah, it certainly helps when you've got someone that will go the extra mile and make sure that it's finalised and everything is correct, because they're important documents.
Yeah. I won't say I get it right every time, Deb.
Yeah, we are human.
Yeah.
But the fact that you follow through and make sure that it is right, and if there is something wrong, you'll make sure that it's sorted. I just feel like that's a weight off. Can I ask you how you sort of and I do ask this of all my guests, how are you disrupting things? How are you disrupting the industry?
I won't say that I have disrupted anybody, but as I mentioned in my book, I do have an intuitive side to myself. And I found, since becoming a celebrant, it is starting to sort of pop its ugly little head. Well, I won't say it's an ugly head, but it's rearing its little head.
It's disruptive head, yes.
Yes. So I pick up and really tune into the deceased a bit, because you're dealing with a family that's grieving, but you also need to know about the deceased and sort of piece all that together. And it was really prominent recently with a family where I said something, and all of a sudden the daughter, who sort of has vision, she said, "Gran's standing behind you nodding her head." See, I don't see I feel, and all of a sudden I might say something that even I think, what the hell's that?
Yeah.
But it's getting that message through to the family that, they're all right on the other side.
Yeah.
But I'm not a psychic, and I really make that very clear.
Yeah. But you just bring that intuitive element into what you're doing. So there's more connection.
I suppose that's a little bit of what we call disruptive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a really nice thing. There's so much peace, I feel, in that. I think that's beautiful. And the last thing I'd like to ask you before we sort of look at winding up is, you've only been in business for yourself for a little while. I mean, you've been in management roles, but in actually running a business, what have you learned so far that you think is important? I mean, you've already beaten, I think, the first 12 months, 50% of businesses fold. So you're already in that top 50%, and I'm not sure in the second year, but so you're still going. You've obviously learned something, and you're obviously doing some things right. So if there was one thing that you thought was important that you would like to share with those people listening, what would that be?
It's important to track where you get the business from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also important to set aside time. Like, I'm totally sold as far as being an accountant goes. I know very little, but when my husband was driving Uber, I had an accountant set up a nice, easy spreadsheet for doing BAS. So I converted that to my business. And when I did go to the accountant last year, he says, I shouldn't be charging you. You've done it all. So I just make sure that I go over and review that and make sure I haven't forgotten something. Like the other day when I was going through, I remembered I hadn't been claiming for the insurance on my car.
Okay.
And having just paid the registration, I need to make sure that goes in there too. And then I did another Excel spreadsheet where I've started tracking, like I do my logbook for what I use that car for. Yeah. And I'd only been saying, 30% is work use in my little thing. But when I did the spreadsheet, it's actually 50%.
So tracking will give you different data to what you're thinking.
Yes. So
it does make a difference, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And and then I, because of my management role before, and I had to report to my bosses, I was very good at, doing graphs to give yourself an idea. And nothing was more of a shock to me until I did do January through to December, just how many funerals I had completed in that 12 months.
Yeah.
I thought I wasn't doing very well at all, but I'd actually done a lot more than I thought.
Yeah.
But it's very important, and I've put a lot of things in practice, Deb, along with your boot camp. From that, I've gathered not just about writing a book, but how to go about marketing. I've done some courses with Kirsty Fields at Social Ocean or social media, which was really good. Yeah. I'm lucky in the sense from a wedding perspective. I always write into my contract and ask them, can I have permission to use their images in my thing? And they say
social media marketing. Yep.
Yeah. And to get around it, because sometimes photographers don't want you to do that.
Oh, of course.
I use my own iPhone. All I want's one picture.
Yeah.
But it really helps. And because I do post a lot to social media, I've had people say, oh, you look really busy.
Yeah, you do a great job with it. So Kirsty's obviously done a great job with teaching you there.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things that I'll go back to this year and just get a brush up on.
Reels are the thing. That's the latest thing. I can just lose time with Reels. So I think that's where it's at this year.
Yes, yes. And I've done a couple, but the funeral director I did a funeral for the other day said, I don't know if you realise, but they're cutting off. Something's gone wrong with them. So I'll have to just chat with someone and just say, look, what did I do wrong here and why isn't it working? Because I actually created the reels in Canva and then uploaded them to social media.
Okay, yep.
So
all right, so to summarise with your tip, it's track your numbers.
Yes.
So including where your business is coming from, as well as your obviously your business numbers, where your income is, and making sure that you're tracking the right numbers is probably the thing. And then, of course, from that, as they say, data drives decision making. So if you're making decisions based on the wrong data, that could be problematic, couldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing is to always remember, the first couple of years are going to be hard.
Yes.
I will admit that this next 12 months is going to be my challenge.
Yeah, okay.
I've been putting some plans and strategies in place, and we'll see where it goes.
Awesome. Rita-Marie, thank you so much for agreeing to our interview. I always enjoy talking to you. It's just really great, actually, to talk to someone that is in that intentional space. They're growing a business. It can be a frightening time, but also an exciting time. And I think you're doing great. And I wish you the best for the next year. It'll be interesting to come back in a year's time and see how you went, how your plans went. And hopefully you're crushing it.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Is there something, where can people go to find out more about you and engage you, either as a wedding celebrant or a funeral celebrant?
I have a web page. It's www.soulcrystalearth, all one word, .com.au.
That's SOULCRYSTALEARTH, Soul Crystal Earth. Right, and it's .com or .com.au?
.com.au.
Excellent. All right, so all the information's there, and they can contact you through there.
Yes, and they can contact me through Facebook under Soul Crystal Earth as well. Via Messenger. As you know, I live locally in the Moreton Bay region, so I'm out and about all over, and I have started advertising in the Narangba area. I forget, they've changed the name of their little free paper, and I will in the next 12 months be looking at placing some ads in the Redcliffe Guide as well.
Excellent. Good to hear. All right. Okay, well, that's it for today.
Thank you.
Very much appreciate your time, but we'll wrap that up there, and we'll look forward to the next episode of The Disruptive Author. All right. Bye for now.
Bye.